What was it like working with Steve Jobs? What aspect of his behavior and personality, let's say, brought out the best in you?
Pushing you, really pushing you, relentless on the details, challenging you for the right reasons. It wasn't bullying. It wasn't demeaning. He would critique the work, not judge the person, at least not in front of them, or inside of in front of a group or anything like that. No, it was really that attention to detail. And when he would make a decision, when you make the first version of anything, something revolutionary, there are a lot of opinion-based decisions. And there's only one or two people, three people who hold those opinion-based decisions and what they should be. And when you have those opinions and you're trying to work with the team to implement those decisions, you have to really tell the why of those decisions. Just don't go do it, but why it's there. So you can feel part of that decision. You can understand what were the trade-offs of the different other answers to that opinion, right? And say, this is the reason why we picked what we picked, because it's this for the customer or this for the overall story, what have you, so that you felt really good. Because a lot of times most people want a data-driven decision. But with V1s, you don't get data.
Mhm.
People who work with those types of people who are unrelenting and push you and might make you upset, a lot of times it's a knee-jerk reaction to go, they are an asshole. Get off my back. You're an ass. Blah, 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 right? And you're protecting your ego. Because what's happening is that person is usually pushing you beyond your boundaries. They see something that we can do or you can do that you're just either not wanting to do for whatever reason. You're not confident in that. You're like, I don't want to take the extra time, and saying, no, we need to get that done, and pushing you. Okay. And so when we came to those areas, it wasn't just a one-on-one, it could be Steve against the team going, we need glass instead of plastic on the front face of the iPhone. And we're going to do this. And we're like, God, you know, and so we did it. And he pushed us because he didn't know all the details, but he could see in our minds that we're like, we could probably, but man, it's really putting us in risk. And we laid out the risks for him. And he's like, I'm willing to take those risks. We'll do that. We're like, we might be 3 months late. He's like, this is so important. We need to stay on time. But it would be all the time push, push, push. He was never unchallengeable. You could challenge him. The plastic to glass story is a perfect example of this.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the project, well before we were going, we had always had these things about, plastic front iPods, these kinds of things, scratches and all that other stuff. So we said, oh, we're going to have a glass or a plastic display, a cover for the display, because the display was glass underneath it. We argued back and forth about glass versus plastic, and then we all landed together on plastic. Okay? The original decision was plastic.
Mm-hmm.
And the reasons were, okay, we don't want to make a mistake. Glass can break. People drop them all the time. So we don't want to have a fragile device because you're going to be using even more than a music player, right? And you're going to be holding your head and putting it in your pocket and misses and all that stuff. So we went down the road with plastic. When the product was shown at Mac World in 2007, the first time, that was plastic. We had just enough of them in the field at the time. We started seeing light scratches on the plastic. Reviewers who didn't have the device yet, because it was behind glass. If you remember 2007, the Jesus phone comes up and no one could even touch them. You could just look at it in this beautiful museum quality box, like it came from the future or whatever, the past. And it was like, oh, and you just looked and that was all you got. But then people said, well, what covers on that? Reviewers who knew better, and they're like, it's plastic. And they were like, really? And so there was enough of a doubt there. And then when we started to do it, and then Steve changed the frame of reference of the question or of the result of what the customer would think. And he was like, if we designed it with plastic and it's in their pocket all the time and it gets scratched by coins, lightly scratched, or by keys or something like that, that is a design problem. We need to fix the problem. That was our bad. If they go off and drop it, or even slightly drop it, and it cracks, it's the customer's fault. And they have they have a less likelihood to complain. Yes, they'll complain, but they're part of that failure.
Yes. Oh, that's fascinating.
And then
There's truth to that.
Right?
Yeah.
Because then they were part of why it failed. Whereas the design, they didn't do anything wrong. It was just sitting in their pocket and it's scratching.
Yeah.
And that's normal use. Abnormal use is been dropped. And we're like, oh, now we get it. And so we all moved to that mindset when you framed the problem and the solution in that way versus the original framing where we all landed on plastic. So, and then he was unrelenting on that, but we all had moved. And we had moved mindset and we understood the why and we marshaled together. And then by the end of June, and it was crazy, the mechanical product design teams, sourcing, all of us, the partner, Corning, pulled together to make that happen because it was the right reason, right? So this, you look at these stories and you hear just the top line rumors of the takeaways, but that's not usually how it all happened. Of like one leader was, that's not how Steve was. Now I've seen leaders who are just pounding, and just had no real empathy for the team and understanding the why. And it is the way I want it, right? I am the supreme leader. That wasn't like that. When
He just had a very strong
a
opinion,
very strong opinion,
but it was challengeable.
it was challengeable. And if you came with the right thing, you could modulate that, but you had to come with a team. It couldn't just be you. It had to come a team and data and to overcome, because it was a very strong opinion.